All right, so imagine this. You're at a family dinner, right? And your Uncle Joe, the one who still insists on paying for everything in cash, well, he starts going on about how robots are going to take everyone's jobs.
Yeah, that's a familiar tune, isn't it? That fear of technology, it's a recurring theme throughout history.
Totally. But this time, it's not robots on assembly lines, it's AI popping up, well, everywhere you look. Honestly, you sent over a whole pile of articles about this AI working remotely, this whole puzzle of the future of work. And it's a lot to digest, honestly. Where do we even start?
Well, there was that McKinsey article. Remember that one? That's a good place to begin, actually. They point out that every time there's a tech revolution, like with PCs back in the 70s, everyone freaks out jobs are vanishing. But looking back, technology has always created more jobs. It's just the rules change, the skills people need. Those change too.
Okay, so maybe Uncle Joe needs to take a chill pill, but what about that Gartner survey you sent me? The one where nearly a quarter of workers are terrified that AI is gunning for their job? That's a lot of people feeling uneasy.
I get it. I really do. Change can be scary. But here's a curious thing from that CNBC study you shared. Those folks who are already using AI at work, they're actually reporting they're happier in their jobs.
Really? Didn't see that coming.
Mm.
More AI, less stress. Who knew?
Yeah, there was a whole 7-point jump on something called the Workforce Happiness Index.
Wow, okay, they must know something we don't. What's the secret sauce? What are they saying?
Well, the study points to a few things. Seems like people felt more in control, like they had more say-so in their work. Maybe because AI was taking care of those boring, repetitive tasks. And they felt like their work had more meaning, probably because they were focusing on stuff that needs human judgment, creativity, the things we excel at.
So it's not that AI is coming to steal our jobs. It's more like AI is changing how we work, hopefully for the better, right?
Could be. That's where this whole idea of skills-based organizations comes in. That's from the Delight piece. We might need to think less about traditional job titles and more about having a flexible skill set.
Okay, I'm intrigued. So instead of saying I'm an accountant, you'd say something like, I'm a problem solver, a data whiz, and I can explain this financial stuff without putting you to sleep.
There you go. And it's funny because in this age of AI, what's becoming even more important are those human skills. That Adecco Group report, it found that 61% of workers believe those soft skills, empathy, communication, all that good stuff, they think those are more valuable at work than AI.
Which is music to my ears because coding isn't exactly my forte. But isn't there a catch? Something about a skills gap.
Right. That same Adecco report, it highlighted this problem. 57% of workers say they want AI training, but access to it isn't equal. Executives have a leg up over regular employees. People who earn more have more opportunities. You get the picture.
So we've got AI potentially making things better for some, potentially leaving others behind, and now let's toss in this whole return to office tug of war. Some companies are dragging everyone back to their cubicles, while others are perfectly happy with Zoom meetings and pajamas. It's a mess.
It really is. And it boils down to this. What will the workplace of the future actually look like? And who gets to decide?
Let's unpack that because I'm starting to wonder if I should be sprucing up my resume or investing in a better office chair for my home office.
Well, let's start with where things stand right now. That Bradley report you sent, that paints a good picture. Seems like hybrid roles, splitting your time between home and the office. Those are the majority now, something like 52% of remote-capable jobs.
So it's not everyone back to the cubicle farms.
Not by a long shot. Even with all the pressure, economists at Goldman Sachs estimate that 20–25% of U.S. workers are still fully remote, at least part-time.
Interesting. But even with these hybrid setups, there's this pressure to always be on, I read about it in the Bamboo HR survey, something called the green status effect. What's that all about?
Oh yeah, that's the pressure to appear online all the time, even during personal time, which can be worse when you're working remotely.
Mhm.
It blurs the lines between work life and personal life, and not in a good way.
Yeah, I can see how that would get blurry fast. If you're always on, when are you ever really off? It's like being on call 24/7. What kind of impact does that pressure have on people?
It's a recipe for burnout, anxiety, even resentment. Not a sustainable situation. What's interesting is that Bamboo HR found that many companies are pushing for RTO without any clear idea of what success even means. They say they want to boost company culture, but how are they measuring that? And is being glued to your desk the only way to do that?
Good point. It's like saying, everyone back in the office, we're building morale, and then taking away the free coffee and making everyone fight over parking spaces. That's not exactly a recipe for a happy workplace.
Right? And it shows a bigger disconnect. What companies think they want and what actually motivates people, what makes them excited to work.
And what about the folks who actually want to be in the office? At least sometimes. It's not like everyone thrives in their PJs, right?
Exactly. And that's what makes this conversation so complex. The future of work isn't one size fits all. It's about finding ways to create workplaces, whether physical or virtual, that work for a diverse group of people with different needs and preferences. And that's where things get really interesting.
So you've got companies pushing for a return to the office, but then they're also shrinking their office space. It's kind of like wanting to make a bigger pizza but using less dough. Doesn't quite add up, does it?
It's a bit of a head scratcher, I'll give you that. But remember, the business world thrives on this balancing act, right? They want to encourage teamwork, build a good company vibe, but they also got to watch the bottom line. And commercial real estate, that's a huge expense. So yeah, something's got to give.
So maybe it's not some big conspiracy, more like companies trying to be smart with their money while also seeming like they're listening to employees who want to work flexibly.
Could be, could be. But it also shows how our idea of the workplace is changing. Remember those hybrid roles from the Bradley report?
Uh-huh.
If most people are only coming in a couple days a week, you don't need a desk for everyone all the time.
Hmm.
Companies are realizing they can downsize their offices without actually letting go of employees.
Right, makes sense. No need for rows and rows of empty desks if half the team's working from home on Wednesdays. But what about those companies taking it even further? I read about something called hot desking. Any thoughts on that?
Oh yeah, that's becoming more and more common. Instead of everyone having their own assigned desk, you just pick a spot based on what you need to do that day. Got a solo project you need to focus on? Find a quiet nook, big team meeting, head to a collaborative space.
So it's less about that personal desk with the family photos and the struggling plant, more about having different areas for different kinds of work. Sounds almost liberating.
That's the whole idea. It's about being flexible, about giving employees the space and the tools to actually do their best work.
Okay, I'm picking up what you're putting down, but we've skirted around it long enough. Let's talk about that Bamboo HR survey, the one that mentioned RTO potentially being a layoff precursor. How worried should people be about that?
Yeah, it's a real concern for a lot of workers. And the data, it did reveal some interesting things. For example, almost 40% of managers and higher-ups admitted that they thought their companies went through with layoffs because, get this, fewer people quit during their RTO push than they'd expected.
So some companies might be hoping employees hate going back to the office so much that they just quit on their own. A sneaky way to cut costs without the bad press of a formal layoff.
It's a bit cynical, I'll grant you that, but not entirely outside the realm of possibility. And that's where clear, open communication from leadership becomes super important. If you're making big changes to the workplace, be upfront with your people, tell them why. Trying to create a stronger company culture. Cut costs, maybe a little of both.
Yeah.
They deserve to know.
Honesty and transparency, what a concept, right?
You'd be surprised how many companies struggle with that. And it's not just about being ethical, it's good business. Companies that build trust and open communication, they tend to have happier employees who want to stick around, and that definitely affects the bottom line.
So how do companies get this right? If there's a CEO listening right now, what's the playbook? How do they navigate this whole RTO, AI, future of work roller coaster?
First things first, understand your employees. Know what they want, what they're worried about. Don't just assume you know what's best for everyone. Gather data, talk to them, really listen to what they have to say.
No more dictating from on high. Okay, what else?
Once you've got a handle on what your employees need, you can start creating a workplace that reflects that. Maybe that means going all in on hybrid, offering remote options, or trying out some new things, like that hot desking we talked about. It's about creating an environment where everyone feels valued, where they feel supported, wherever they happen to be working.
So it's more than just fancy perks and free snacks. It's about building a culture of flexibility, of trusting your people.
You got it. And here's the big one. Don't skimp on training and development. Invest in your employees' growth. Give them opportunities to learn new skills, explore different career paths, keep up with the times. It pays off in the long run, for them and for the company.
Right, it's like that old saying, give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. Except now you're teaching them to code or analyze data or whatever the future throws their way.
Love that analogy. And at the end of the day, no matter how tech-driven things get, it's still people who drive innovation, creativity, that human connection.
So cultivate a culture of respect, empathy, genuine human connection.
Got it. We've talked a lot about individuals and companies, but what about the bigger picture? Does society have a role in all of this, or is it every man for himself? Oh, society definitely has a role. This isn't just about individual choices or company policies. It's about creating a system where everyone has a shot at a good future of work. For everyone.
Okay, so where do we start? How do we make that happen?
We can start by taking a hard look at our education systems.
Yeah.
Right now, they're mainly designed to teach kids very specific skills for a world that might not even exist a few years from now. We need to shift gears, focus more on adaptability, on critical thinking, problem solving, those lifelong learning skills, things that go beyond just one specific job title.
So we need to prepare students for the jobs that haven't been invented yet. And it's not just about students. Everyone, regardless of their age or background, should be able to access education and training, and it needs to be affordable.
Exactly. Lifelong learning needs to be more than just a fancy term. And then there's the whole issue of those social safety nets we rely on. Healthcare, retirement savings, those are usually tied to having a traditional job, but that's changing right in front of us. We need to find ways to separate those benefits from a single employer.
You're talking about portable benefits, a more universal system of support that moves with you?
Right. We need to start thinking seriously about things like a universal basic income, especially as automation starts replacing more and more jobs. Look, these are complicated issues with no easy answers.
Definitely no easy answers, but they're conversations we need to be having. Feels like we're at this pivotal point where we have a chance to really rethink and redesign what the future of work looks like?
We really are. It's exciting. So much potential, but also uncertainty. And the choices we make today, individually, as companies, as a society, those choices will decide what that future looks like.
Okay, so to recap, we've got AI changing how we work, companies trying to figure out this whole office situation, and then this need for a total societal rethink when it comes to education, benefits, the whole nine yards. That's a lot to process, even for us. You're not kidding. But let's shift gears for a second. Instead of the big picture, let's talk about what our listeners can actually do. Those folks trying to navigate their own careers and all of this. How can they get ready for this future of work we've been talking about?
Well, we've thrown out a lot of possibilities, but one thing's for sure, being able to adapt. That's the name of the game. Think of yourself as a lifelong learner. What's hot today might be obsolete tomorrow, so find ways to learn new things, keep those skills fresh.
That's good advice, but easier said than done sometimes, right? Where do you even begin?
Yeah, I hear you. It can feel overwhelming, but think about it. We live in a time where learning resources are everywhere, and a lot of them are free or pretty cheap. Check out online courses, maybe a professional certification, go to some workshops, find a mentor in your field, even just reading books and articles about your industry or areas you're interested in. That's huge.
So much information out there, it's almost too much. You mentioned networking earlier, and it's true, who you know can make a big difference.
It's not just about knowing people, though. It's about connecting with them. Going to conferences, joining online communities, even reaching out to people you admire on LinkedIn.
It's about those genuine relationships, not just collecting business cards, but how do you make yourself stand out in this ever-changing job market? How can someone make sure they're the one everyone wants to hire?
That's where thinking about your skills in a different way comes in. You might have a job title now, but what are the skills that make you good at it? What are you really good at? Are you a problem solver, creative thinker, amazing communicator? Figure out what those core skills are and start thinking about how they could apply to other industries, other roles.
So even if your job gets automated or disappears, you've got this toolbox of skills that can go with you wherever you go. I love that. But what about the companies? We've put a lot on individuals to adapt, but companies have skin in the game too, right?
100%. And it goes beyond just offering ping pong tables and free snacks. They need to build a culture that actually supports this new world of work we're talking about.
Okay, I'm all ears. If we've got CEOs listening right now, lay it on us. What's the advice for them?
First things first, listen to your people. Don't just guess at what they want or what they need. Do surveys, have focus groups, make it clear that feedback is welcome. Use that information to create policies and an environment that actually helps your employees thrive, an environment where they can be productive.
Data over gut feeling. Love it. What else?
And embrace flexibility. That could mean hybrid work models, being open to remote work, or even trying things like that hot desking we talked about. It's about building a workplace where people feel like they can do their best work no matter where they're physically located.
It's about trust, right? Trusting your employees to manage their own work, giving them the freedom to do it in a way that works for them.
Exactly. And part of that is making sure they've got the tools and resources they need. Invest in tech that makes collaboration and communication seamless, whether someone's in the office or working remotely.
Okay, you're making me want to work from a beach somewhere, but seriously, having the right tech is key. Anything else?
Training and development. Those are crucial. You can't just hire someone and expect them to use the same skills for the next 2 decades. Companies need to invest in their employees, give them chances to learn new skills, explore new career paths, just stay ahead of the curve. And that's not just about keeping up with tech. It's about investing in the people who make your company successful.
It's a win-win, right? Employees feel valued and supported, and the company benefits from a workforce that's always learning and innovating. But let's be real, there need to be some bigger changes to support all of this, right?
Definitely. It's great that individuals can take charge of their careers and companies can create adaptable workplaces, but there are things on a societal level that need to change too.
Education, benefits, social safety nets, all of that. We touched on them earlier, but they're important. What does a future-proof society look like in this new world of work?
It's about creating systems that support adaptability and continuous learning. For example, our education system needs an overhaul. We've got to move away from this narrow, specialized approach that just prepares students for one specific career path, and instead, we need to equip them with critical thinking, problem solving, communication skills, the things that will be valuable no matter what field they end up in. Let's face it, most of them will change careers multiple times throughout their lives.
It's like we need to prepare them for jobs that haven't even been invented yet. And it's not just about kids in school. Everyone, no matter their age or background, needs access to affordable education and training.
Right. Lifelong learning needs to be more than just a catchy phrase. And we can't forget about social safety nets. We're used to healthcare and retirement being tied to a traditional job, but that model is going the way of the dinosaurs. We need to find ways to make those benefits portable so they're not tied to a single employer.
Portable benefits, more universal systems of support. Did I get that right?
You got it. We have to start having serious talks about things like a universal basic income, especially with automation likely to displace a lot of jobs. These are tough issues, policy issues, but we can't just ignore them. The future of work isn't just about individual jobs. It's about creating a society where everyone has a chance to succeed.
Wow, we covered a lot of ground today. AI changing how we work, offices not looking like offices anymore, even the need for a complete rethink of education and benefits. It can feel kind of overwhelming.
It's a lot, for sure, but it's also exciting.
It is pretty exciting. It feels like we're at a turning point. And the decisions we make now will affect the world of work for generations to come.
No pressure, right. But seriously, the choices we make, whether it's as individuals, companies, or as a society, those choices will shape the future.
And it's not just on one group to figure it all out. We need to do this together. Individuals, companies, policymakers, everyone has a part to play in making sure that future of work is fair, sustainable, and ultimately fulfilling.
Well said. The future isn't just something that happens to us. It's something we build.
I like that a lot. So to everyone listening who went on this deep dive with us today, remember to stay curious, be ready to adapt, embrace the changes coming our way, and don't be afraid to help shape the future of your work and the future of work for everyone. Until next time.